Before we begin, thank you very much to Z the Nerdy Vampire for joining my Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for your support. Very appreciated. I'm recording this after recording the finale episode for Beast Machine's episode reviews because it went a lot longer than I thought, had a lot more to say than I expected to. So yeah, I'm just going to make this the content for the day so I don't burn myself out. So there's my shout out to continue that theme. So get ready. There's a lot of ranting in this episode. Spoiler alert, I didn't have a favorable opinion, but that is for you to discover and see for yourself. Thank you once again for the support on Patreon, and please enjoy the episode review. Beast Machine's episode reviews concludes with Seeds of the Future, Endgame Part 3. Well, it's been a long, interesting ride. Revisiting this series has been an adventure to say the least. But here we are, the end of Beast Machines, the end of Beast Machines here on the channel, though we aren't going to be completely done with the topic just yet. However, let's focus on today. And today we're going to be talking about one last roundup between Optimus Primal and Megatron. This episode literally is like a 15 to 20 minute battle between these two, and that's literally all that goes on. So how I am going to stretch this into a full-length episode review, I don't know, but we're certainly going to try. So we do start with the full reveal, rather than just the teaser of Megatron's new body, which is Optimus Primal's old body. And while, yes, it does deliver some irony to the final confrontation between these two, it is a little bit weird. It's just a little bit weird seeing Primal fight Primal this whole time. There's always a disconnect in the back of your brain that's telling you, like, it's not Megatron. You know, like, if this was, like, if it had been recolored, like, blue, like Megatron, like you would expect Megatron to look, instead of doing, like, the weird, like, maroon, orange color scheme of that toy. No, number one, Hasbro would have had another repaint on their hands, but number two, this would have been a lot better on the brain, I think. But it's still, I get the irony. I also get that it's a reuse of assets, so the animators didn't have to create anything new for the finale. Well, they did create some things new. We'll talk about that when we get to it. So, yeah. The fight itself is incredibly one-sided. The few times Primal seems to get an upper hand, Megatron seems to all but shake it off. At one time, he loses an arm just to, like, pick the arm back up and slide it right back onto the elbow like nothing happened. Yeah, Optimus Primal's way outclassed. Megatron is bigger, more powerful. The vehicle modes has a lot more offensive power than Primal's robot mode does. Primal really just has mobility and durability, because he gets slammed around a lot during this fight. And yeah, and strangely enough, it kind of comes down to a lot of what we normally see in this series. A Maximal running away from a Viacon. 26 episodes, and that is how it ends. One Maximal and one Viacon are left on the planet, and it ends with them chasing. It ends the same way that every encounter ends. There are a few interesting sequences in it. Megatron is way more efficient with Primal's body. The more aggressive nature of Megatron definitely lends itself to the full arsenal of that vehicle mode, especially the tank mode, which, guess what, he actually uses. Primal used the tank mode, what I can remember, twice in Beast Wars. One was to bust out of the avalanche, or like, not avalanche, but like the cave-in that was going on in Optimal Situation. And another was when his jet mode was too damaged to fly out, so he turned into his tank mode and drove off. I don't think he once fired his cannons in tank mode. An act that Megatron does almost immediately when he gets into tank mode. It's at least good on him. He's actually using animation that the original design never really got to use. Alright, but yeah, the fight is just one long one-on-one fight. what's supposed to feel epic, but man, it just feels like it drags. It drags so long. There's an underwater sequence that is completely unnecessary, and it just it just kind of shows us that, hey, we can have a fight scene underwater. That's essentially all it shows. This is one-on-one the whole time, by the way. Remember, Maximals have had their sparks removed, which the sparks are now back to just being normal blue. The colored spark thing, that went out the window, out of nowhere. And also, remember, the Viacon factories were blown up, so there's no drones to help out Megatron either. So, pretty convenient that literally every drone was wiped out before this fight. We'll ignore that. We'll just ignore that and move on. So, there's some weirdness in this episode. So, the underwater sequence is fine. Megatron, the Optimal Optimus's body apparently has torpedoes that we never got to see. And the jet mode is fully aquatic, so that's a thing too. Some of the weirdness. Man, all of the weirdness. There is a scene where Primal ends up back on the bridge that led to the Oracle. Somehow, just conveniently, the battle ended up sending him there, where he finds the downed bodies of Night Scream, Rat Trap, and Botanica, even though they were in the orchard when that happened, not the bridge. So that's awfully convenient. So you're telling me that You're telling me that there's, somehow they got defeated off screen. The sparks, got extracted, and then what? Were they chased to that point, or did the Viacons that were surviving just conveniently drag them to that point? It does remind me there should be Viacons fighting alongside Megatron in this scene, because someone had to beat the Maximals, right? And they're nowhere to be found now. So yeah, I take it back. Where did the Viacons go? Where did the Viacons go? There should be a few left. Okay. So, so one of the weirdest things is, at some point in the fight, Megatron essentially he's declaring victory, and he's starting to absorb sparks. He's doing so from on top of a tower that just happens to be near where the Grand Mall crash landed. And it conveniently has a spire that opens up and reveals a gigantic throne that was apparently there all along. And said throne, when Megatron starts absorbing all these sparks, he starts growing in size. I'm a Power Ranger fan, have been since the show came out. I know getting big never helps. But this is what happens. Megatron gets gigantic, and now the throne is the perfect size for him. So you're telling me all along that Megatron was planning to take a body this size that would grow to exactly this size when he absorbed the sparks of Cybertron. And he just conveniently planted a throne that ended up right exactly where his Grand Mall would end up crash landing, which is also conveniently next to a spot where he can access the organic core of Cybertron from the surface of the planet. That's another thing, by the way. Megatron gets the key to Vector Sigma again, and apparently just blows a hole in what looks like just a dome that covers a massive hole that goes all the way down to the organic core. So Megatron could have done this, and did this always exist? Was this always here? Was Megatron working on it to dig down himself to do this? What? You see how many conveniences lined up to make this final scene happen, and how much it drives me insane? 'Cause it does. Yeah, it's this whole sequence frustrates me. This whole sequence frustrates me because there's so many stupid things that have to happen to make it work. We get a vision from the Maximals before they get absorbed into Megatron. Cheetor spouts, the seeds of the future lie buried in the past, like it actually means something in this context. It does not. It's just a really weird thing to shout. There's a moment where Optimus thinks there's a stalemate because Megatron, even though he's downloaded the Oracle, cannot access the key to Vector Sigma because Primal still possesses half of the Oracle. And yeah, normally, okay, just call stalemate, fine. Megatron then just grabs Primal, and just takes the rest of the Oracle. That's it. That's all he does. It's as simple as that. Here, grab, take. Now it's all mine. All right. It's padding. It just felt like absolute padding. This is already padded enough with just these two going back and forth against each other, for the entire episode. And now we need to pad it out with something that was like a momentary annoyance to Megatron at best. It is also frustrating that for everything that has happened in the show, the Maximals themselves outside of Primal get to do literally nothing in the finale. Literally nothing except appear at the very end. I don't know, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I understand this to make the entire situation seem dire, but it also seems insultive to the characters. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I wish they got to do more. All right, so the ending sequence, the end sequence. So the techno-organic vines actually, the Oracle actually intervenes directly by using the transorganic vines to bind Megatron, while Primal just kind of pushes Megatron. He just kind of pushes him off. Yeah, Megatron grabs onto him, so Primal can't fly away. But Megatron, as they're plummeting down this shaft that goes from the surface of Cybertron all the way to its core, forgets that he can transform into a jet. Oh my god. This is supposed to be the smartest Megatron they ever made. This is supposed to be the brilliant genius that could literally mastermind a plan that wrapped around space and time that everyone else was 3 steps behind him on, and yet he was defeated by being pushed into a hole and forgetting he could fly. I would have words, but then YouTube would demonetize me. So that's the grand finale of the fight. Despite being 20 times Optimus Primal's size and weight, somehow Primal has no problem just shoving Megatron down a hole, and that kills them both. So landing in the core not only kills Primal and Megatron for some undisclosed reason, it also reformats the entire planet. Somehow. Was that why the Oracle wanted to be in Megatron? So they could all take the plunge together? I mean, the Oracle must still exist. It contacted Cheetor at the end of the series, so, like, it wasn't destroyed. So, what? What do we do with it now? Like, I don't know. It makes no sense. Why did hitting the core blow up the entire, like, make the entire planet reformat? Why? Literally, why? I mean, is that the whole thing? If the Oracle wasn't so obtuse and so cryptic, could you have literally just dunked him in, like, just like taken like the Oracle, taken it to this hole and slam dunking it like a basketball, and hey, Megatron's defeated. Everyone's organic now. That's literally what it feels like. It feels like it would have been that easy. It feels like it would have been that easy. And no, we don't get that. Instead we have this whole thing. And what it leads to is potentially the most unintentionally funny scene in Transformers ever. We have an entire planet of Cybertron that is now coated in green. There's one patch of trees that the Maximals are around, and then nothing but like flat green all across the planet. The Cybertron now has rolling hills, which it never had before. It has clouds and like a blue sky, like it has an ozone layer. That's never been a thing. Cybertron's had oxygen, but it's never had blue skies. Why does it have blue skies out of nowhere all of a sudden? You're about to see it on the screen caps. So let me just wait for it. Just wait for it so you can see it. Come on, one more. It's automatic. It's automatic, so I can't really do anything about it. I just have to wait for it to come up. Oh, but don't worry. It is worth it. You've seen it already, but it's worth it. There we go. The worst shot in Transformers history. And I'm including the animation errors in G1 when I say that. So, we see the Oracle contacts Cheetor, and once it does, all the sparks reappear in the sky, flying off into the distance behind the rolling hills, and then just hordes of generic robots just start running over the hills cheering. And there's exactly 4 animation models amongst this group of hundreds of shadows. They all have these terrible run cycles. Some of them are running diagonally, and it's super choppy, super low res. It looks absolutely horrible. And you're also telling me that all these maximal bodies are just kind of waiting beyond the hill for everything to go down, and then they all just kind of ran uphill. Wasn't the implication that the bodies are gone because they're all reformatted into Viacons? Like, the bodies were used to make Viacons. Wasn't that kind of like the whole premise, the whole like the behind the scene thing? What happened to that? What happened to that? No, they just magically have bodies and they start running over the hills in this super low polygon, super bad run cycle. And that's not even... The writers tried to add in one more comedic bit. One more comedy, one more little comedy hit before we end the series. And it's Waspinator flying up to the Maximals. He's back in his Beast Wars wasp body, but he has Thrust's head, and he's super small for some reason. For some reason, Waspinator is now super tiny, and he's just shouting about wanting power and glory, and Rat Trap just kind of swats him away, and that's supposed to be your comedy bit. What a way to ruin the character! What a way! Remember, this is Waspinator. This is Waspinator. He is the most popular. He's like one of the most popular Beast Wars characters. He was so popular even in the first season that they had to change all their plans to kill him off at the end, at the finale. They had to keep him around. He was too freaking popular. So the writers in this series went, we don't care, and we're gonna take his... I'm already upset that they brought him back for Beast Machines the way they did, because he undid everything he accomplished in that last minute growth he had in Beast Wars, and how happy he was after being miserable. After a character we loved is finally happy, we get to see his misery returned tenfold in this series. Not only is he right back to being comic relief, being beaten around by Rat Trap for fun, he's also super tiny and insignificant in this plot. It's embarrassing. It's genuinely like embarrassing. Silverbolt's back to his normal self, so he's being sappy and lovey-dovey and heroic again. Rat Trap and Botanica are being much more honest and open with each other now. Okay, good for them. Apparently Cheetor is going to lead the planet because now the Oracle wants to talk to him all of a sudden. And that's how we end it. Hordes of generic Transformers running over the hills that didn't exist before in celebration. This looks like the shot out of Teletubbies. I'm expecting the sun with a baby to rise up over the edge of the world. So, this is the longest episode review I've ever done. I might just make this the content of the day. Which I can't because that requires a shout out. I forgot that. All right, but you know what? No. This one, no. Yeah, Beast Machines, episode 26, Seeds of the Future. Yeah, this should come as no surprise. I'm giving it a terrible score. This is a way for an ending to the Beast Saga. It's a long, drawn-out, repetitive fight with a lot of stuff that makes absolutely no sense. We have to, in order for it to work, we have to assume Megatron to be an idiot, which he is not. And the finale, the way it's depicted, is just laughably bad. So, yeah, that's how the Beast era ends, on a whimper. And it's very disappointing. But that is Beast Machines, a series that I used to give more credit to, and upon rewatching, no, I am firmly in the hater camp. I do not like this show. I do not like this show at all. I see a lot of I see a lot of character assassination. I see a lot of just like writing that tries to make itself sound really fancy and important when it's not. I see a lot of continuity gaffes. I see a lot of weird character choices. I see a lot of just, like a lot of pacing problems. And even like down to like animation style. I mean, I try not to talk about visuals, but I really don't like the overall visual style of the show either. It's a mess. It is an absolute mess. What a way to ruin Beast Wars. All right, that's Seeds of the Future. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you once again for the support on Patreon to make a series like this happen. I'm going to take a bit of a break from episode reviews before we jump into Transformers Prime to avoid some burnout, but join me on what is, to my memory, a far better series. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.
We're gonna have to get your names for the books. You, Pale One.
William Current.
Roll me a deception check.
I thought their name was Pain.
Roll a disadvantage.
Okay.
That was like the opposite of the help action there. You, Goblin.
First name D's.
Watch your tongue.